Hello, everyone. This is Jack Karlis from Georgia College, and I apologize for me not being able to be there due to budgetary constraints and other obligations. But I hope everything is going well in your conference, and I'm here to talk about when the WWE went corporate. So, changing its trunks and boots for ties and suits, and we're going to look under the theory of corporate social responsibility. So, the WWE is a global company. I'm sure we're all aware of this. It is the top wrestling, or I should say, sports entertainment promotion in the world. Its revenues, its reach is international. On social media, it's a definite force, right? And it routinely on social media will outperform such institutions such as Monday Night Football. That's how popular wrestling has gotten. It's gone from smoky bingo halls to stadium-filled events. It's been in operation for more than 50 years. Vincent K. McMahon bought it from his father. And it's originally a northeastern territory, part of the area where I grew up in Buffalo, New York. And it's a unique mixture of theater, entertainment, reality, television, and a bit of game show. But in the 80s, part of the problem was after Vince took it over, the content was very saturated with misogynistic principles, racism, and very hegemonic chauvinistic behavior that permeated throughout the programming. What you see in the ring was probably less egregious than what you see what happened backstage. It was very hegemonic with illegal narcotic use, steroid use, and alcohol abuse. Scandals were rampant in the public eyes, and part of this was due to this old school culture of you go to the ring, you go from town to town, you go to bar, and the culture was in the back room was the boys. You keep it among the boys. It was this very hegemonic culture that they had. So some of the scandals that have hit it, and they've survived, were in the 1990s, the infamous McMahon steroid trial, where his star performer Hulk Hogan had testified against him. Jimmy Superfly Snuka's connection to his murder, which has just recently resurfaced. And there's been a ton of premature deaths of old wrestlers dying before they're 50, sexual harassment suits such as Nicole Bass suit that was swept under the rug. And WWE had always received negative media coverage. Not a lot of credibility with mainstream media. And the other thought was that the wrestlers were treated as gladiators. They were just disposable heroes that could be replaced. You lose a Hulk Hogan, you bring in a Bret Hart. And they had no wellness policy, because the company, by and large, employed what they called independent contractors. Well, what changed that? Well, the WWE became publicly traded in 1999, still during the middle of the Attitude Era, and 2 years before they buy out WCW. Two deaths would completely change its ways of handling employees and their health. And that was Eddie Guerrero, God rest his soul, in 2005, and Chris Benoit, who was part of a murder-suicide in 2007. The unique aspect is these were both best friends that would change the course of WWE. So this falls under something called corporate social responsibility. And we talk about this a lot in strategic communications. It's a corporate self-regulation integrated into a business model, meaning the company goes in and regulates itself before the public or regulatory agencies such as the U.S. government steps in. It functions as a self-regulatory mechanism whereby a business monitors and ensures active compliance. But most importantly, I want you to focus on ethical standards and national or international norms. All right, people knew the WWE was not very caring of its employees, and so the mainstream media, Sports Illustrated and other such publications, started giving them a lot of heat. All right, so in 2006, they instituted the wellness policy. Now, this was shortly after Eddie Guerrero's death. So what is in the wellness policy? Prescription medications, performance-enhancing drugs, illegal recreational drugs, and they have their 3 strikes and you're out rule, which they weren't afraid to use. And Benoit's death would cause a big turn in all this. So here's a little chart just detailing very rudimentary research of since the year 1999 when they went corporately public. Were publicly traded, I should say. And you can kind of see there's that spike in 2021 with the wellness policy suspensions. That came shortly after in August 2007 after what had gone on with Chris Benoit in Georgia with the murder-suicide, right? So you see the suspensions, they meant business. And if you're thinking, okay, they're just going to be what we call jobbers or some of the mid-card guys, some high-profile names, such as Edge, who was possibly the top heel in the company at the time, Randy Orton, who's always been a favorite of Vince McMahon and Triple H, was also suspended. And you can see how they were not afraid to pull the trigger on people who were suspended because the information leaked out to the press and was reported by Sports Illustrated, and that started a whole other scandal about the doping scandal that was happening in wrestling. They had no choice but to suspend them. Now, why did they do this, right? Why would they do this, which has always been a very closed culture in society? Okay, because now they're publicly traded, stakeholders in the company, the product would not lose value by taking a public beating and thus creating a reduction in stock value, right? So, and that's the number one thing in corporations. It's not about the people, unfortunately, it's about the money. They also want to improve its image in the mainstream media with corporate social responsibility to display its care for its employees, and they also want to establish a reputation of valuing its employees' health and its fan base, realizing, some of these guys who were passing on, such as, the Macho Mans and everybody else in the world that we all grew up with, right, that they were going to be cared for. Bruno Sammartino, Harley Race, so on. So, and that was part of letting the voices be heard. So, not only was there alcohol and drug abuse testing, but also they went into cardiovascular monitoring. And after Chris Nowinski, a former wrestler, had brought up about the issue about concussions and CTE, when they had done a biopsy of Benoit's brain, that is also part of this, right? And you see this on TV. If someone gets hurt, they will throw up the X, and they will take them off the air. In August 27, which I think is probably the most poignant piece of this, they did suspend those 12 superstars, including Edge. And then, even further, in 2016, Roman Reigns, who was being pushed to have the top spot or be the face of the company, he was suspended for a wellness policy violation. Now, if you think about that, that would be like, well, in football, maybe Tom Brady being suspended. Oh, wait, that did happen. Sorry. But WWE prides itself on merchandise sales, right? So all the suspensions, though, and the most important part of this, are made public. So there's a sense of transparency. So it's no longer behind closed doors, sweeping things up. They are now public. So the 10 years since, it's worked. And that shows that honesty is the best policy. It's not to say the WWE is perfect now, because it's not. But it's a lot better than what it was 20 years ago. The company has grown exponentially in stock value, reach, and holdings. They attract and attain the top international talents, such as Shinsuke Nakamura, right? And this company is not only the premier wrestling company to work for, and they've also are regularly covered now by ESPN, something I never thought, and I'm sure you never thought would be right in there, and Rolling Stone. So those are my sources, and it's just a quick, brief case study of how the WWE was able to apply something that's been used in corporate America, and they took it from the wrestling that I grew up, or the wrestling that I grew up with, and now everything is about its employees' health. It's a very corporate environment. This is not to say bullying and other things and harassment don't go on in the back, but it is probably less now due to they can be litigated. And I'd be happy to take your questions at this time. And again, I apologize, I am not there to answer them in person, but thank you and have a great day.